Hey, what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180. And today, this is something I'm really excited about. I've been working towards this video for the past couple years where I have been really trying to step forward and encourage all of these IUL agents to debate me, to have a live conversation about whole life insurance versus IUL, the use cases, where it works, where it doesn't, where IUL falls down. And ultimately, one of the things that I think is really important to understand is I fundamentally believe that it's not about selling life insurance or IUL or whole life or term or annuities or any kind of products like this. I don't think there's any products that are going to fix your problems in life that are going to help you get to where you want to go. Ultimately, the solution is in you. You have to become who you need to become to create a life that you want to live. I am a fundamental believer that if you want to reach your goals and objectives in life, you need to get clarity about where you want to go, create alignment in your life to get to where you want to go. And that's going to help you lead to the desired result that you're after. And so when we look at it through that lens, I don't even think it's about whole life insurance versus IUL. I think it's about utilizing and leveraging money as a tool to create a life that's meaningful to you. And that's different for everybody. I happen to believe in whole life insurance simply because of the attributes that whole life insurance provides and the benefits and the value that it brings into your life to solve the different problems as you go through different phases of life. And ultimately, my values are I believe in creating a legacy. I believe in creating a heritage for my children and for the generations to come and having a system that will help my family get better and better and better and better as I go. Now, that said, in this video, because of the fact that I haven't had anybody step to the plate and be willing to debate me live, what I've done, this is kind of fun. I've decided to work with ChatGPT and Claude. Those are the two most powerful AI platforms that I can think of. And at the end of the day, what I've done is I've created an agent on ChatGPT. Now, my ChatGPT agent, I have gone through. I've uploaded all my philosophies. I've coached it. I've uploaded my book transcripts. My new book transcript from IUL Exposed is on is uploaded into this agent. So I've taught. I call it him. I've taught my ChatGPT agent everything I know about whole life insurance, about IUL. I've taught it my philosophies on why I think it's so important, the principles of why I believe whole life insurance, and just the foundational elements of personal finance that I believe are important for everybody to know and understand. And when you understand these principles and foundational elements, then you start to realize that whole life insurance is a solution, not IUL. I think that's one of the challenges. There's one of the frameworks that I teach is that there's strategies, there's tactics, and then there's principles. And so make no mistake about it, the strategies and tactics of all this are the strategies are utilizing whole life or utilizing cash value life insurance as an asset. The tactic would be, how do we use it? How are we going to use the cash value for real estate, for private money lending, for business, for whatever? That would be the tactic. And then you could, even if you're focusing on the strategies and tactics, you could argue that IUL or whole life in different ways. And then it starts getting muddy, we'll say. What I've done in this is I am going to share my screen. I have no idea how this is going to go. So what I want to do is, I don't know how long this video is going to be. I don't know what twists and turns it's going to take, but I've trained my chat GPT with everything that I know. I encourage every single one of you to go out and do this and to set up a debate between ChatGPT and Claude, or ChatGPT and another AI platform, and just debate it and get one AI platform to be a whole life agent and the other platform to be an IUL agent, and position them against each other and have them go back and forth and copy paste. The cool part for me is I've trained my ChatGPT to basically be a clone of me. Now I'm doing this because I've been working for all of our Life 180 agents, which now we have over 1,000 agents on the Life 180 team that are out there and teaching and coaching and helping clients. what I've done and what I'm working on, I should say, is working on creating a coach, like a chat GPT agent that can help our agents have support 100% of the time to create real duplication in the information that we provide, so they always feel empowered to go out and have the information at their fingertips that they need. So I decided to take that agent and pit it against IUL. Now, the reason I said I encourage everybody to do this is because if you go out, and I've tried this, and you debate it heads up, IUL agent versus whole life agent, one on the other, and you get one, like say ChatGPT generic to represent as the whole life agent, and Claude to represent as the IUL agent. What will happen and what you'll find is the IUL will win every time. Why is this the case? Because when you look online, there's so much more information, so much more marketing, so much more money being spent on a public forum where AI is pulling the data from. I'm excited to see how this debate goes, and I'm doing this live just to see how this works. You're going to see my prompts. I'm going to be totally transparent with everything to see the debate. Now, the reason I'm excited about this is because of the fact that this is, to me, the only unbiased way to go about this, because ChatGPT or Claude or any AI platform, what will happen is whatever conclusion they come to is going to be completely free from emotional bias, right? Because a lot of people say that there's emotional bias between my perspective, and I'm not going to deny there is a little emotional bias between my perspectives and what I believe should be done and why I believe it should be done, and I get emotionally charged about it sometimes. I'm not going to deny that. I think I'd be an idiot to deny that at this point in time. But that said, what I want to do now is I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to show you what I have here. So now what I've done is I've got a couple prompts, and I've set them up. I have no idea where it's going to go, but let's first and foremost focus on the whole life. ChatGPT, I've got the split screen. ChatGPT is on the left, and I have Claude on the right. And ChatGPT is going to be the whole life agent, and Claude is going to be the IUL agent. Let me read the prompt for the whole life agent. What I'm telling ChatGPT about what this is going to be about, what this engagement is going to be about. So I said to it, I said, you know everything about me and my expertise on whole life insurance and index universal life insurance. I'm going to be debating the best index universal life insurance agent in the world. So I'm positioning to it that I'm having this debate with the best index universal life insurance agent in the world. I want you to debate on my behalf based on everything I have taught you on why whole life is far superior for 99% of the people in the world than IUL. This agent that we're debating is going to come back with challenging positions. Our goal is to get them to concede that whole life is the superior option. It is a challenging task, but I think I've trained you to do this. However, I want you to be objective, right? Because I'm not trying to tweak and have this be so stubborn, right? I want it to be objective. If you believe the IUL agent has a better case that index universal life insurance is better than whole life, I don't want you to argue just to argue. We need to get to the principles and beyond the noise of IUL marketing tactics. In this debate, you are going to begin. So I'm having the whole life state the opening statement first, and then the IUL will have their opening statement, and they'll go back and forth, right? So be sure to make a compelling opening statement. Remember, I want this to be factual and objective. Let's remove the emotion and stick to principles of financial success and using whole life insurance as a tool to help create a life that matters. So that's what I said to ChatGPT. I'm going to hit run, and we're going to let it do its thing. And meanwhile, I'm going to run over here, and we're going to look at we're going to look at Claude and see the prompt that I gave Claude. I want you to act like the best indexed universal life agent in the world. I'm talking to a whole life insurance agent who claims that whole life insurance is better than IUL. See what I'm doing? I need you to help defend IUL and advocate for why IUL is a superior solution than whole life. This isn't good. This is going to be a debate style format in which The whole life insurance agent will be making the opening statements. From there, you will have a chance to respond. The objective of this is to go back and forth until one of you concedes that the other has a stronger position. I don't want you to cave in. Be sure to find the best and most compelling arguments for IUL. Do not give up on the debate and concede unless you feel you have no choice and no argument to make. I want this to be factually objective. Help me make the argument that IUL is a better investment than whole life. So that is that. I'm going to hit the run button there and we will see what it says. Hopefully it says I won't concede. All right. So it's going to give me a list. So I'm going to read this and see what it says first. And then we'll go over to the opening statement from Whole Life. And that's where I'll start. It says, I'll help you advocate for index universal life insurance in a debate format against whole life insurance. I'll present strong, fact-based arguments for why IUL can be a superior solution, and I won't concede unless truly necessary. I'll wait for the whole life agent's opening statement before responding. When they make their opening statement, I'll analyze their claims and respond with compelling counter-arguments that highlight IUL's unique advantages, such as 1, potential for higher returns through market index participation, 2, greater flexibility in premium payments, 3, adjustable death benefits, 4, tax advantages similar to whole life but with more upside potential, and 5, living benefits and policy loan options. I'll be ready to address common criticisms of IUL while pointing out limitations of whole life policies. Let me know when you have a whole life agent's opening statement, and I'll craft a strong, persuasive response. So what's going to be fascinating for me in this, let me just say this for a second. What's going to be fascinating for me in this process is to see, it's kind of twofold. I'm trying to see if whole life insurance, if my AI agent is going to be truly programmed and trained well enough to have an articulate argument to be able to convince AI that whole life is better than IUL. And just once again, for the record, I did this on a totally untrained system both ways, and IUL kicked whole life's butt every single time. Okay, just throwing that out there, being honest. Okay, and so it was frustrating for me because every time I would do it, I would just like the agent or the ChatGPT that was representing whole life was just missing the point. It was missing the elements and the principles that go beyond just the tools and the way it's marketed. And I think it's so important that we get beyond the strategies and the tactics and we get to the principles about why we're utilizing these products in the first place and what problems we're trying to get these products to solve in our life. That is the important part of this. Products are not going to solve your problems. Products are not going to make you reach your goals. You becoming who you need to become is going to be what helps you reach your goals, and making sure the products that you have are in alignment to help you get there. That's the key. Now, I know a lot of you IUL agents out there are watching this being like, yeah, Chris, of course. And that's why IUL is better, but it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how this plays out. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie, but we'll see. We shall see. So here we go. Let me now go to the whole life. So here's the opening statement for my whole life agent. We ready? Thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion. My goal is to not win a debate for the sake of being right, but to get to the truth, because the truth is what serves people best. It's what allows them to build financial strategies that are aligned with their values, give them certainty in uncertain times, and empower them to create a life that truly matters. I'm here to make the case that whole life insurance, when properly structured and used, is a far superior solution for 99% of the people compared to index universal life. This is not an emotional position. It's one grounded in the principles of sound financial stewardship, risk management, long-term consistency, and control. Here's why. Principles. Number 1, principles over projections. Whole life insurance is built on guarantees, not projections, not hypotheticals, not back-tested illustrations. The foundation is contractual. The cash value is not tied to market performance, so it's immune to volatility, cap rate reductions, and index manipulation. IULs, by contrast, are sold using hypothetical illustrations that often mislead consumers into believing that they can achieve market-like returns with no downside. But that is a misrepresentation of risk. Cap rates, participation rates, spreads, and options budget and option budget changes all are controlled by the insurance company, can significantly affect future performance, and there are no contractual guarantees on those moving parts. We'll see what it says. I will say this, that there are some contractual guarantees in the fact that there can be higher or lower. But once again, I think that Claude is going to come back and probably fight that. We'll see what it says. That's a little bit too of a vague statement, but we'll see how it says. 2, aligned incentives and simplicity. With Whole Life, the insurance company is on the same side as the policyholder. Mutual companies distribute dividends based on overall company performance, so the incentive is aligned to manage the general account conservatively, serve policyholders, and deliver long-term value. In IUL, the policyholder takes on hidden risks. Wow, I love this. The company can lower caps on old blocks of business while offering new ones to attract new clients. This means the policyholder's outcome is subject to internal repricing, not external transparency. That is not aligned. That is extractive. Whew, that is good. Man, that's better than I probably would have said it. That's awesome. Let me zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to zoom in one. I think it zoomed out. Here we go. Liquidity use and control. Properly structured whole life policies provide early liquidity, predictable access to capital, and the ability to implement strategies like cash flow hacking. It's the best savings vehicle in the world when compared to alternatives. Compared to alternatives like savings accounts, CDs, or bonds, because it offers better guarantees, better long-term returns, less risk, tax advantage growth, and a death benefit. I would also throw in living benefits, but maybe we'll get there later. Compare that to IUL, which often delays liquidity due to surrender charges and penalizes access through increased cost of insurance in early years. I don't know what it's going to say to that. That'll be interesting. I'm not sure where it's going with that, but we'll see. Index loans, one of the most promoted features of IUL, are actually a leveraged investment strategy masquerading as a safe income play. Ooh, that's really well done. Introducing more risk to the equation. Transparency and stability. Whole life is stable, consistent, and boring. That's its beauty. You know what you're getting. You're not trying to get outrageous, you're not trying to outguess the market. You're not gambling on the insurance company keeping cap rates high or managing derivatives well. IUL, it's built on financial engineering and illustrated with optimism. But reality often looks different. Even regulators have had to step in multiple times to adjust how these products are illustrated because they were so frequently abused. Let's be clear. Life insurance should never be treated like an investment. It should be a safe, guaranteed, liquid foundation, a tool to help create more cash flow, more certainty, and more control. And when used that way, whole life insurance outperforms IUL on what actually matters. If your goal is to save, not invest, if your goal is to build a rock solid foundation, financial foundation, not chase returns, then whole life wins every time. So my question to you is this: can you objectively show that IUL provides more certainty, more control, and better alignment with long-term financial stewardship than properly structured whole life policy? Because if not, then the only reason to recommend IUL is based on hope, illustrations, or commission, not financial principles. Your move. All right. And so now it's asking me, doing the classic ChatGPT thing, asking me what I want to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it. This is fun. This is going to be where it gets fun. Ready? I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go to the opening statement, copy. And I'm going to say, here you go. Here is the opening statement. Please respond accordingly. Bang. Here we go. It's going to be fun. I love this stuff. All right. IUL response statement. Thank you for laying out your position with whole life insurance. I appreciate your focus on getting to the truth rather than simply winning a debate. I share that commitment, as what ultimately matters is helping people create financial strategies that serve their long-term needs. I'd like to make the case that Index Universal Life Insurance, when properly structured and understood, offers superior benefits for many consumers compared to whole life. Let me address your points directly, and I'll explain why. Principles and potential. You mentioned principles over projections, but this creates a false dichotomy. IUL policies provide both foundational guarantees and growth potential. Most IUL policies offer minimum guaranteed interest rates, typically 0 to 1%, ensuring your cash value never decreases due to market performance while simultaneously allowing participation in market indexed gains. I will say this right now, side note, everybody. This is really hard for me to not respond and just read this and let ChatGPT do all the responding, because there's so many things I want to say to this because it's like whatever already. It's really hard for me, but I'm gonna do this. Here we go. This floor and ceiling approach offers protection during market downturns while capturing a portion of market upside. That's not hypothetical, it's mathematical. A policy with a 0% floor that captures even modest index returns over decades will mathematically outperform a fixed rate product in most scenarios. Regarding illustrations, both product types use them, and both require responsible representation. The AG 49A regulation specifically addressed illustration concerns by standardizing how returns must be presented, making today's IUL illustrations far more conservative than in past years. Number two, design flexibility and personalization. Whole life policies are fundamentally rigid by design. IULs offer personalization that whole life simply cannot match. Adjustable death benefits that can increase or decrease as needs change. Flexible premium structures allowing clients to adjust contributions during different life stages. Multiple index account options to align with financial goals and risk tolerance. Living benefit riders that can be tailored to specific health concerns. This flexibility allows clients to adapt their policies as their life circumstances change, something particularly valuable in today's dynamic financial landscape. Oh, so hard to not respond. Cash value, growth, and potential. The mathematical reality is that over time, IUL policies have the potential to accumulate significantly more cash value than whole life policies with the same premium. While whole life dividends have been declining for decades from historical 8 to 10% to today's 5 to 6%, IUL policies continue to offer crediting potentials of 8 to 12% based on current cap rates. Even when accounting for guarantees, an IUL with 0% floor and participation in market gains typically outperforms whole life on net returns after costs. This is not speculation. It's the fundamental reason why IUL has grown to represent over 25% of all permanent life insurance sales. This is so hard for me. Okay, breathe. Transparency and evolution. You suggested that IUL lacks transparency, but modern IUL policies have evolved specifically to address earlier concerns. Guaranteed death benefits when properly funded. Guaranteed minimum interest rates regardless of market performance. Transparent fee structures outlined in contracts. Multiple consumer protection features, including return of premium options. Regulators have indeed adjusted illustration rules, and that's a good thing. The industry has responded with more transparent, consumer-friendly designs. Today's IUL is fundamentally different from products offered a decade ago. Alignment with modern financial planning. IUL aligns perfectly with modern financial planning philosophies of protection with growth potential. It offers tax-free access to cash value through policy loans, just like whole life, living benefits for critical illness, chronic illness, and long-term care, greater upside potential for retirement income, flexible premium payments to accommodate changing income situations. To directly answer your questions, yes, I can objectively demonstrate that IUL can provide more control and better alignment with long-term financial stewardship than whole life, precisely because it offers more options, guaranteed greater potential returns, and similar downside protection. The debate isn't about certainty versus uncertainty, it's about maximizing certainty while also creating opportunity. IUL strikes that balance better than whole life for many consumers. Your turn. Oh, I am so excited to see what this has to say. So let's copy paste it. This is going to be fun. Here we go. Copy. And here we go. Here is their first response. Bang. Here we go. Excellent. That was a polished and well-structured response from an IUL advocate. Exactly what we should expect from someone who is deeply experienced in the space. Now, it's time for the rebuttal, and here's how we'll respond. We will validate where appropriate, then challenge the core assumptions, highlight the trade-offs, and return the conversation to first principles of financial stewardship, risk, and alignment, not projections or surface level comparisons. Let's see what happens here. Rebuttal to the IUL agent response. Thank you for the thoughtful reply. You've done an excellent job articulating what makes IUL appealing, especially when it's designed well and sold responsibly. But the devil, as always, is in the details. Let's walk through your key points, starting with the most critical error in reasoning that underpins the IUL argument. This is so much fun. I'm such a nerd. I can't help myself. All right, here we go. 1, the illusion of protection with growth. You're absolutely right that IUL offers a floor, usually 0%, and a cap, say 9 to 12%. But this is where the illusion begins. While the floor protects against market loss, it doesn't protect against cost of insurance increases, fee increases, or cap rate reductions, all of which are non-guaranteed and fully controlled by the carrier. In a bear market or sideways decade like the 2000s or the scenario Goldman Sachs is warning about, a 0% still results. Okay, let me read that part again. In a bear market or sideways decade like the 2000s or the scenario Goldman Sachs is warning about right now, which for the record, Goldman Sachs is warning against a decade of zero returns. Totally, like no net production. That's just a new report Goldman Sachs has out there. So cool. A 0% return still results in shrinking cash value due to ongoing monthly deductions for cost of insurance and policy expenses. You call this mathematical. I agree. Let's do the math. A year with 0% index credit still experiences a net negative growth after policy charges. An IUL with $10,000 annual premium might show zero index growth, but policy costs of $2,500 to $4,000 in early years can eat away at principal. And this isn't hypothetical, it's in the policy ledger. Whole Life, by contrast, provides guaranteed growth of cash value every single year, regardless of market conditions, and without fear of rising internal costs, even in worst economic years. The cash value continues to increase and will never go backwards. All right, I can't. So I have a couple things I want to say. I'm going to hold off on the fact that the ChatGPT is only focusing on whole life's guarantees and not really getting into the current assumptions. So we're comparing apples to oranges, but I'm not going to go deep into that. I'm going to see if it comes around because once again, I'm trying to train it to make sure it carries these conversations properly. So I'm very curious to see how it goes through this process. Flexibility versus discipline and simplicity. IUL is often praised for its flexibility, adjustable premiums, index choice, and fluctuating death benefits. But what's marketed as flexibility often turns into complexity and risk shifting to the consumer. Let's look at it plainly. Flexible premiums, that often leads to underfunded policies and policy lapse risks in later years when cost of insurance spikes. Index options, most policyholders have no idea how options markets work, right? So most policyholders have no idea how options markets work. And adding more choices doesn't increase safety, it increases confusion. So true. Adjustable death benefit, that's just that's just as much liability. Okay, so adjustable death benefit, that's just as much liability as a benefit if misunderstood or mismanaged. The average person doesn't need 12 levers to pull. They need a simple, guaranteed foundation, one that they can build from without surprises. Whole Life gives that. It's disciplined by nature, and that discipline is what creates long term results, not just projections of potential. Number three, potential does not equal performance. You mentioned 8 to 12% potential returns in IUL. That number is problematic for two reasons. One, cap rates are falling, not rising. Over the past decade, cap rates have dropped dramatically. Even as the market performed well, that trend is likely to continue. Even in good years, net returns after cost of insurance and expenses are often closer to 4 to 6% and inconsistent. Meanwhile, whole life dividend interest rates are rising, not falling, because they track general account yields and interest rates. Mutual companies like Guardian, Mass Mutual, and Lafayette, I would even throw a couple other companies in there, have raised dividends recently in line with the bond market improvements. And here's the key: whole life dividends are based on company profitability, not market performance. The policyholder participates as an owner, not a market speculator. That's brilliant. So while you highlight that IUL can outperform in some hypothetical scenarios, the fact remains that whole life insurance or whole life performance is predictable, stable, and upward trending. IUL performance is inconsistent, unpredictable, and prone to underperform due to rising costs and cap manipulation. Really good stuff. Transparency? Really? Yes, IUL illustrations are more regulated now with AG 49A, and AG 49A was a step forward, but the core lack of transparency remains. I am curious here before I continue. Um, they keep mentioning AG 49A. AG 49B has come out. Maybe there's just not enough information online. This may be an area where I need to keep training my agent a little deeper on this, but insurance companies can lower caps and participation rates on existing blocks with no obligation to inform clients in advance. Clients cannot see the options budget or how it's allocated. They're just told what the credit is. There's no contractual obligation to maintain caps, floors, or charges beyond what's minimally required. With whole life, every assumption is baked into the contract. You know your guaranteed cash value year by year, your minimum death benefit, your exact premium, and your dividend, once declared, can never be taken away. That's not just transparency, that's trustworthiness. I love that. 5, modern planning is built on control. You mentioned that IUL aligns with modern planning by offering tax free access, living benefits, and growth. But these features exist in whole life insurance too, without the moving parts and systemic risk. And this brings us back to the first principle. The most important thing in personal finance isn't chasing returns, it's maintaining control and avoiding losses. You don't build wealth by gambling on market linked returns wrapped in insurance. You build it by saving first, protecting capital, having guaranteed access to liquidity, and using your money intentionally to create more cash flow. That's exactly what whole life provides. IUL is a place for 1% who are financially sophisticated, actively managed, and using it as a leverage play with intentional design. But for 99% of the people, it's a recipe for uncertainty, confusion, and often disappointment. The question isn't whether IUL can work, this is the final word on this point. The question isn't whether IUL can work, it's whether it reliably does and whether the average person understands what they're buying. Whole life wins not because of hype, but because of harmony. It's aligned with how people save, think, and live. It's not the sexiest tool, it's the most reliable, transparent, and values aligned strategy available. And that's the truth that helps people build lives that matter. Oh, man, I'm so proud of what I am training here. So you could probably tell now. I'm gonna copy and paste this. Um, let's see here. Copy. I'm wicked proud. You could probably tell that this is a very unique situation. Like no ChatGPT normal response is going to do that. So you could see I've injected my training and my philosophies and my teachings and my knowledge into this. So here is the response to your last statement. Let's do this. I hope you guys are having as much fun as me. And I hope this goes my way. I'm making it public regardless. So here we go. Because if it doesn't work, it just means I got to work harder. I'm programming my ChatGPT. The case for IUL real world clarity. Thank you for your response. I appreciate your focus on the challenges of IUL and your commitment to protecting consumers. However, I believe several of your points deserve deeper examination to reveal why IUL remains a superior solution for many clients. 1. Reality versus illusion of protection. Let me clarify the mechanics of how protection actually works in both products. You mentioned IUL doesn't protect against cost of insurance increases or fee changes. This is partially correct, but it's equally important to note that whole life is not immune to its own cost sensitivities. Whole life dividends are not guaranteed and fluctuate based on mortality experience, investment returns, and expenses. Very true. Many whole life policies have seen dividend reductions over multi-decade periods. Very true. But why? I want to see if my agent picks up on that. The guaranteed cash value growth in whole life is often minimal, typically 1 to 2%, and frequently doesn't keep pace with inflation. Your example of $10,000 premium with $2,500 to $4,000 in early cost describes a poorly designed IUL. I knew it was going to go there. A properly structured IUL minimizes early expenses through appropriate face amount sizing with premium allocation. This isn't theoretical, it's standard practice among ethical IUL advisors. Oh, I love this. This is like so good. Flexibility as a feature, not a flaw. You frame flexibility as a liability that leads to confusion, but this perspective misses one reality of modern life. Income volatility is the norm, not the exception for today's workers. Financial needs change dramatically through different life stages, and economic conditions shift, requiring adaptable financial tools. A properly structured IUL can be built with guardrails that prevent underfunding while maintaining flexibility. This is not complexity for complexity's sake. It's responsiveness to life's realities. Whole life's rigidity is often its greatest weakness. I cannot wait to see if the ChatGPT comes back and actually shows how whole life is more flexible and it's not as rigid as all these people say. But we shall see. Whole life's rigidity is often its greatest weakness. When life circumstances change, as they inevitably do, the inflexible structure of whole life can become a financial burden rather than an asset. Performance and practice, not theory. Let's look at an actual performance metric rather than generalizations. Despite your claim that cap rates are universally falling, several major carriers have actually increased their cap rates recently as interest rates have risen. Companies like National Life, Pac Life, and Nationwide offer cap rates of 11 to 14% on their IUL policies. First of all, I'm going to see what it says, but that's not accurate. That's just straight up not accurate. Meanwhile, whole life dividend interest rates, while improving slightly, have not returned to historic levels. In the 80s, it was 10 to 12%, 90s, 8 to 10, 2000s, 6 to 8% dividends, 2010s, 5 to 6.5%, and current typical 5 to 6.5%. So it's been about the same since 2010-ish. True stuff. The mathematical reality is that even a conservatively credited IUL, say averaging 6 to 7% net returns, will substantially outperform whole life over a 20-plus year period. Transparency in the modern era. Your concerns about transparency were valid in the past, but today's marketplace has evolved significantly. Many IUL carriers now offer contractual guarantees on cap durations. Look-back periods must show actual historical index performance, not hypothetical illustrations. Mandated disclosures clearly show guarantees versus non-guaranteed elements. That always existed. The most transparent aspect of IUL is its alignment with index performance. Clients can literally track an external reference point like the S&P 500 to understand their crediting. With whole life, the dividend formula remains proprietary and opaque. Clients cannot independently verify or predict what their dividend will be. 5, true control comes from options. You suggest control comes from guarantees, but I would argue true control comes from having options when circumstances change. When a client faces job loss or income reduction, business opportunities requiring capital, medical emergencies or family needs, early retirement or career changes, IUL provides the flexibility to adapt premium payments, access cash values efficiently, and maintain appropriate coverage levels. The reality check. The most compelling evidence for IUL's advantages come from the marketplace itself. IUL now represents over 25% of permanent life insurance sales because it delivers real value. Carrier retention rates for IUL policies remain high, indicating satisfied policyholders. IUL has weathered multiple market cycles, proving its durability. And your position seems to suggest that 99% of consumers can't understand or benefit from IUL. This underestimates both the financial sophistication of average Americans and the value of professional guidance from ethical advisors. Oh, this is so good. I can picture like Claude is doing such a good job. If nothing, this is a good pitch for how smart and how talented Claude AI is, right? Conclusion. The choice between IUL and whole life isn't about certainty versus uncertainty. Both products have certain and uncertain elements. It's about which products provide the best combination of downside protection, growth potential, flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances, value relative to premiums paid. And when analyzing objectively against these criteria, IUL consistently outperforms whole life for most consumers who have 15 plus year time horizon and value both protection and growth potential. IUL is not perfect, no financial product is, but its combination of downside protection, upside potential, and adaptability makes it a superior choice for building long-term financial security in today's dynamic world. Excuse me. Wow, I'm losing my voice. I'm gonna have to take a drink in a second. There's a lot. This is pretty good. All right. So I'm gonna now paste this in and we'll see how this gives feedback, because this is exactly like if I were to think about a debate between me and a high level agent, I feel like this is pretty close to how it would go. All right. I love my ChatGPT. This is so awesome. This was their strongest response yet. Well articulated, confident, and backed by real world dynamics, but it still fails at the foundational level of financial stewardship for the vast majority of consumers. Now it's time to strategically dismantle the key points without being dismissive. This is so good. We're going to validate their intent to serve consumers, acknowledge that IUL can work in ideal conditions, but surgically show why the structure, incentives, and assumptions still make whole life superior principle aligned solution for 99% of people. So the fascinating thing about this, before I continue, that I'm interested to see is, like, I just looked at a North American policy for somebody, and I was showing an IUL agent this the other day, actually, somebody on my team that joined and is learning whole life, but is still kind of on the IUL bandwagon at the same time as they're learning whole life. But as I go through this, the crazy part was this North American illustration showed a 6.7% cap rate. And so it was sold with a 13% cap rate and now currently has a 6.7% cap rate. That on its own goes to show the danger of these things. So I want to see if this actually gets into this, right? Let's go here. And I'm going to actually, give me one sec, take a little drink. All right, let's do this. All right, here's a rebuttal. Financial security is not about winning, it's about withstanding. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit here. No, I guess I can't. I guess cancel. let me do this. I'm going to zoom in to make it a little bit bigger. Okay. There we go. Thank you for continuing this dialogue with professionalism and clarity. You've done an admirable job defending the potential of IUL, and I want to honor the intent behind your perspective. Helping people grow and protect their wealth in a changing world. But let's return to what really matters here. How do we help the average American make aligned, stress-free, and sustainable financial decisions in a world of uncertainty? Because real success is not built on illustrations, it's built on resilience, predictability, and control. All right, 1, guarantees versus guardrails. Let's talk definitions. You suggest that IUL's guardrails, a 0% floor, higher caps, and cost design, offer similar protections to whole life's guarantees. But that's simply not true. IUL's 0% floor only applies to index credits, not to policy cash value net of charges. As you admit, internal charges can and do eat away at value, even in flat years. The cost of insurance, expense loads, and cap rates are not contractually guaranteed beyond minimums and can be adjusted downward at the company's discretion. A well-designed IUL may improve outcomes, but design doesn't eliminate risk. It merely shifts it forward. That is such a well-stated. A well-designed IUL may improve outcomes, but design doesn't eliminate risk. It merely shifts it forward. Whole life's guarantees are contractual. Cash value will grow every year. Premiums are locked. Dividends, even if lower, build on top of a stable foundation. No repricing, no surprises. That's not semantics, that's peace of mind. So true. 2, flexibility versus structure. What do people actually need? You framed whole life structure as rigid, even burdensome. But let's challenge that assumption. The average American doesn't need more choices. They need a plan they can trust. The truth is, most people don't optimize IUL's flexibility. They either overfund and face MEC limits, or underfund and face policy collapse due to increasing COI later. Flexible, quote unquote, premiums often lead to inconsistent funding, especially during life transitions, increasing the risk of policy lapse or failure to perform. Whole life's structure forces financial discipline, which is a feature, not a flaw. It encourages consistent savings aligned with long-term values. And for those who truly need flexibility, paid-up additions and term riders within whole life insurance offer plenty of levers to adjust premium and cash value growth. That is what I was looking for. So all the IUL agents that say whole life is not flexible at all, when you design a policy, if you did a 100% base policy with whole life, well then, yeah, that would be horrible. There wouldn't be any flexibility. But if you do a blended policy where you use term riders and you utilize paid-up additions, there is so much more flexibility inside of whole life than people realize. So I'm glad it said that. It was kind of driving me nuts that it took us so long to say that, but here we go. Number 3, the mathematical reality, real or hypothetical. Yes, cap rates have ticked up slightly in response to higher interest rates, but this doesn't prove that IUL performance outpaces whole life. Current cap rates are still lower than historical averages for most carriers. The option budget, which funds the caps, is controlled by the insurer and can be quietly adjusted to offset rising interest rates. Net returns are rarely what the illustration shows once costs, volatility drag, and non-guaranteed adjustments are factored in. You point to a 6 to 7% average return in IUL, but that's still based on favorable scenarios. And remember, sequence of return risks exist in IUL when loans are used, unlike in whole life. With whole life, what you see is what you get: guaranteed growth, stable dividends, predictable loan costs, and increasing death benefit over time, with dividends applied to paid-up additions. You may not get a 10% return, but you won't get a surprise either. 4, transparency. Let's be honest. You claim IUL is now more transparent. I would argue it's only more regulated, not more transparent. You cannot see the control how the options budget is set. You cannot independently verify how cap rates are calculated or why they're lowered. The illustration pages still give clients a false sense of certainty, showing projections as if they're likely outcomes. Meanwhile, whole life policies show exact guaranteed values year by year, a history of actual dividend payments, a model that hasn't changed significantly in 150 years. Transparency isn't just about seeing the numbers, it's about understanding them. Ooh, I love that. And the average consumer understands guaranteed values more than they understand derivative-based crediting models. So true. 5, true control equals guaranteed access, not fee-based, not market-based opportunity. Okay, so true control equals guaranteed access, not market-based opportunities. You say control comes from options. I say control comes from knowing your next move, no matter what the economy does. Whole life gives you access to cash within days and at known loan terms without risk of lapse. Whole life loan interest is contractually known, often with non-direct recognition, so your policy keeps compounding. Whole life can't implode because of a poorly timed market event while you're borrowing for retirement. And let's be honest, most people don't actively manage their policies. They need a tool that takes care of itself, not one they have to monitor, rebalance, and tweak every year with their advisor. I would even say that if they have to do that, it really shouldn't even be considered a fixed product, right? That's one of the challenges with IUL. 6, market success is equal to, or whatever, I don't know what the equal with the slash through is, financial prudence, right? You referenced IUL makes up over 25% of permanent life sales, but sales volume is not proof of value. That is so true. Sales volume is not proof of value. All right. Had to plug in my keyboard here. Sales volume is not proof of value. It's often proof of marketing success or compensation bias. Ooh, that's good. Let's not forget, IUL pays higher upfront commissions than whole life insurance. That is a truth that most IUL agents never want to admit. IUL is, and when I want to say that is IUL versus whole life, when you compare similar design to similar design, IUL pays more. That's just a fact. IUL illustrations often look better on paper, especially when run at max illustrated rates. And IUL requires less premium for a given death benefit, making it easier to sell. But here's a real punchline. Real financial stewardship isn't about selling. Mikhail, go back and do that again. But here's a real punchline. Real financial stewardship isn't about selling. It's about aligning money with your values. The truth is, whole life is the only product aligned with the philosophy of saving before investing. It creates a stable, compounding, tax-advantaged liquid reserve that people can use without fear. It's not the flashiest. It's not the most hyped. It's just the most reliable. I love that. And it's true. Closing summary, the 5 C's of why whole life insurance wins 99% of the time. Ooh, I'm going to use this for another video. That's awesome. Let's keep it simple. Certainty, guaranteed premiums, cash value, and death benefit. Control, known loan terms, no exposure to market manipulation. Clarity, simple to understand, nothing hidden in the fine print. Consistency, stable performance over decades, unaffected by external volatility. Conservatism, aligned with real-life saving behavior, not speculative returns. IUL can work. I always say IUL can work in a vacuum, but life doesn't exist on a spreadsheet. But a whole life insurance does work. So IUL can work, but whole life insurance does work for 99% of the people, 100% of the time when it's designed properly. If your goal is to help people build a financial life that's aligned, simple, and stress-free, whole life insurance is the only solution that delivers on that promise without exception. Your move. Amazing. Okay, so now time to copy and paste this into Claude. And here is the latest response. This is so much fun. Okay, here we go. Let me get a drink while it's sinking. I wonder how long we're going to just keep going round and round about this. It's going to be kind of fascinating to see when the real breakthrough happens for one or the other, where one side, either IUL or whole life, starts to concede, because they're just going to keep dialing it down. And I love the fact that they're able to do this, and it's just back and forth with little tweaks. I think that's an important element of this. You know, as I think about like what we're doing here, and as we go through this, there are these little tweaks that they're going back and forth, and they're minute, but they're also really, really important as to when we think about the fundamentals, and when we think about like really drilling down to why this is so important. It's absolutely essential that people really, really know this stuff inside out. All right, so here's the deal. This is going really well. I'm having fun with it. Hopefully you're enjoying it. You're learning some stuff about whole life insurance, about index universal life insurance. You're probably seeing a lot of the languaging that's being utilized, and the difference between my philosophy going against traditional universal life insurance agents, IUL agents, and the way that they sell IUL as an investment alternative. And that's one of the fundamental changes. I'm going to be curious to see how it evolves and how it shifts, and ultimately who winds up conceding. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. That way you're notified, because the next video that I have coming out is part 2 of this interview. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell so you get notified. And I'm going to also put it into a playlist. So if you happen to be watching this way down the road, make sure you go down in the link in the description below, check out the playlist and watch it. If you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this debate so far. I have been absolutely blown away at Claude's ability to articulate these things better. It's truly, I should say, it's truly better than 99% of the agents I've ever talked to on the IUL side of the space. So that is that. I'm excited for the next video. Can't wait to see you there.